Bishop, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate.
Welcome, everyone, to the Wake Up Call channel. Truer words have never been spoken since both candidates are CIA operatives, Manchurian candidates. Pretty incredible that right on national TV we actually hear former President-elect Donald Trump call out Joe Biden as being a Manchurian candidate. But those are the types of things that'll go in one ear, out the other ear of most civilians, because they don't even know what that means. Now, some of them think Manchurian candidate just means that he's cooperating and working for another country. But the simple fact is these people are all Manchurian candidates of the intel agencies. They're all puppets, and none of them are put in these positions of power by the people. So if you didn't see this charade of a debate, I'll show you some of the clips and we'll examine where this is going psychologically, because every single thing is psychological. They could spin this stuff however they want, and the suckers out there will believe however it's spun. So isn't it convenient that the liberal media was acting as if Joe Biden offed himself on stage? They were crying, they were so upset. And this tells me that what we're headed towards, because remember, to bring down this government, the last step that they need to do is convince everybody out there that these elections are rigged. Now, the simple fact of the matter is that they're not rigged, they're not real. There's a big difference between the two. But if somehow, the way that they're talking about this, if somehow Joe Biden somehow is selected president in November, the majority of civilians in this country will no longer have any faith whatsoever in the judicial process, thus doing what the goal is here of the New World Order, which is to bring down the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. So let's start by looking at some of the lowlights. I mean, Trump put out a video even right after this of just, it's an embarrassment, but this is an embarrassment done by design, because this makes it extremely believable that this country is crumbling because of incompetency. You got one guy playing the role of a felon and the other guy playing the role of a completely senile person who can't even complete a sentence. It's amazing as civilians that we're even allowing this charade to go on, as if these people were actually selected by the people to be put in these positions. They're deliberately putting them there because it's the ultimate sabotage, having these two candidates, because either way, this country gets destroyed on purpose, leading us either into World War III or just leading us into more of the incompetency and insanity that we currently see with the way they gaslight us about the border by design. Of course, you wouldn't know what was going on at the border if they weren't putting these stories out there every single day. Remember, every single story in the news, you wouldn't know about it unless they wanted you to know about it. Okay? Well, none of us are flying drones over the border every day seeing what's going on. They're showing it to us by design. They're the ones gaslighting everybody into the destruction of this country. So let's start with this clip. These two clips here of what Trump put out where Biden can't, I mean, none of it makes sense. But this is done by design. That's the point. You'll hear all the alt-right media talking about it today, and they'll be like, oh, you know, I feel bad for him up on stage, and poor Joe, and oh, it's embarrassing. Oh, the conservatives won the debate. The simple fact is this right here is what sabotage looks like. Neither of these people should be on a stage representing the people of this country. But of course, this is a billionaires club. This isn't a government that's set up where people like me and you could run for office. This is the two perfect candidates to choose. One guy who is such a bully and so, playing this role of saying everything that, we're all thinking because we see the insanity on the other side, where we have Democrats talking about castrating children and all other absolute absurdities that they continue to do, telling us that our tax money needs to get funneled through other countries. I mean, the stuff that they do is unbelievable. But look at this compilation of clips, including him, he makes zero sense on purpose.
Vote for making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans. The impact on the choice, the idea that they're gonna. I'm proposing that everybody the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. And wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it stopped. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers. After that, we found ourselves in a situation where, when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. It's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Okay, so watch where this is headed now, right? Watch where this is headed. And let me start by saying, remember, all narratives that come out on the news are narratives that they want out there, right? This didn't even process. It was 5 seconds after this fake debate was over. And every single liberal anchor on CNN was crying. And that's all that the media is doing today is, Joe's such a great guy. And this is by design. They could easily sit there and say that Biden won the debate. We see them sit there and say the most ridiculous stuff day in and day out with no evidence whatsoever. I mean, let's just take the magic potion as an example, right? How they were telling everybody to take, they still tell everybody to take it with no scientific evidence whatsoever. They could easily come out after this debate and just say, hey, Biden won the debate. Biden won the debate. And the people out there will believe it. They'll believe whatever they say, no matter what they even see or hear with their own eyes. Remember, you're under hypnosis when you're watching the news. Your brain is really just going through phases into an alpha state where you're not even paying attention to what you're watching. But here's a perfect example. This one clip is exactly how all the media was acting after seeing this fake charade of a debate.
In the sense that right now, as we speak, there is a deep, a wide, and a very aggressive panic in the Democratic Party. It started minutes into the debate, and it continues right now. It involves party strategists, it involves elected officials, it involves fundraisers. And they're having conversations about the president's performance, which they think was dismal, which they think will hurt other people down the party in the ticket, and they're having conversations about what they should do about it.
That was painful. I love Joe Biden. I work for Joe Biden. He didn't do well at all. He did not do well at all. And he looked, I'll give you the analysis, you kind of have the old man versus the con man. I can walk you through how I'm supposed to see it and say it, but I just want to speak from my heart. I love that guy. That's a good man. He loves his country. He's doing the best that he can. But he had a test to meet tonight to restore confidence of the country and of the base, and he failed to do that. And I think there's a lot of people who are going to want to see him consider taking a different course now. We're still far from our convention, and there is time for this party to figure out a different way forward if he will allow us to do that. But that was not what we needed from Joe Biden, and it's personally painful for a lot of people. It's not just panic, it's pain for what we saw tonight.
So you got the guy on national TV, he might as well give him a tissue. I mean, he's crying over it. He loves Joe. Joe's his buddy. And they're all conceding, right? They're all conceding that this is a problem and Trump is going to be the next president. And I personally believe that they're doing exactly the same blueprint they've been doing. This is a blueprint they've done in other countries. This is the blueprint they did with the red wave. If you don't remember a few years ago, this red wave, I talked about it beforehand. Every single news station was talking about how there was going to be this red wave, how conservatives were going to sweep in and all the liberals are going to be taken out of these other positions, senators, governors, etc., because of just how poorly this country is being run, how expensive everything is, how frustrated people are. And I said, watch how this works psychologically. Everybody out there is expecting it. It's a given. And then they come out and they tell you what? Oh, it wasn't a red wave. It was a blue wave. And everyone's like, huh? Wait, I thought it was supposed to be a red wave. Well, exactly. They're doing the same thing right now. They're making you think that there's a 0% probability that Joe Biden's going to win. In fact, the liberal media is out there talking about how Joe Biden needs to step aside today and resign or not run for office again and put another candidate in a few months away from this fake election. That's what they're pushing. So we have to watch the narratives that they push, because psychologically, this is how they manipulate and control people into doing what they want them to do. They're giving Joe Biden zero chance. This is a clip that aired before the debate, okay, on CNN. This was an hour before the debate. Listen to them talk about how low his approval rating is. This is all done by design. Nobody knows anybody that votes in these approval ratings. They just use these terms like, here's the data, here's what everybody's saying. Nobody knows anybody that's being polled. I've said this a million times. Do you know anyone ever, maybe one person in your lifetime that may have been polled in a consensus? Okay? They use these things as a psychological tool. So they come out an hour before the debate and they show you how low Joe Biden's approval rating is, making it seem like there's no way he's going to win.
Is advantage Trump. And here's the biggest reason right now. It is simply very difficult, many would argue impossible, for an incumbent to win re-election when only 38% of the country, that's a lot of Democrats and independents saying they disapprove of your job as president, is 38% approval rating for the president right now, Anderson, as he walks onto that debate stage in less than an hour. And he's also in the 30s, mid to high 30s in some of these battleground states. That is an untenable position for an incumbent. I know it seems early, but it's getting late to change that. And he has to change that if he wants to win.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Watching how they manipulate. Remember, CNN doesn't cover news. Okay, these communist news networks like CNN and NBC, if they come out and they start throwing Joe Biden under the bus, there's a bigger agenda at play here. A bigger agenda. Because remember, the election denying narrative is very important in the bringing down of the United States of America. It's very important in the separating between red and blue states. That was one of the topics they talked a lot about, and people probably weren't paying attention. When they were talking about Roe v. Wade and bringing things down to a state level, that states need to be in charge, it's very important to continue to watch those narratives so that people feel like they need to live in a state that's represented by their political ideologies. This has never happened before. This is not something that's normal in the United States of America. You could be a conservative living, or used to be able to be a conservative living in a place like California, and you wouldn't feel like your government was infringing on your rights. Now they're doing it deliberately, so they make you so uncomfortable with their principles and their fake policies that you don't want to live in a state that's represented by the opposite political party. They're making it feel like, well, if you're a woman, you can't live in a conservative state, right? If you're a Christian, you can't live in a liberal state because they're going to get people into your libraries trying to grind on your kids. These are things that they're deliberately doing. So that was mentioned as well. And of course, the bringing up of Kamala Harris, the bringing up of, well, if Joe Biden's back in office, right, he's so senile, how's he going to make it 4 more years? Then we get Kamala Harris. They're practically telling you that whatever ends up happening here, World War III is inevitable. That's what they're telling you, because everybody looks at Donald Trump as the one who's going to push the button to bring us to World War III, or that it's going to be the other side stumbling around because they're so clueless. That's done by design. It makes it believable that we head into World War III and this country gets brought to its knees by either candidate. It works on both sides. Remember what I've been saying. You have to step out of this because it's easy for all of us, even though I'm not a Trump supporter, obviously. I'm not a Republican supporter. I don't vote. I don't believe in any of it. It's a total waste of time. It's nothing more than a data mining operation anyway to watch how you're voting and who you're supporting and what you're saying, especially since they know that conservatives are anti-globalism and anti-New World Order. That's very important for them. But either way, you're allowed to vote. You can do whatever you choose to do, even though your vote doesn't count. You have to look at this from neutral eyes. You have to pull yourself out. Even though a lot of the stuff Trump says is obviously funny at times about how ridiculous this stuff is with Biden, pull yourself out. The Democrats and the Republicans view each other the same exact way. The same exact way. It sounds insane to say, but the Democrats have this viewpoint that they're victims the same way we all feel, even though I'm not a Republican. We feel this intense amount of government overreach. We feel this censorship crap that's going on a day in and day out basis. We feel that the government's literally trying to get inside our front doors. They feel the same way about Trump. Both sides are getting worked the same exact way, just both sides can't see the other side's perspective on it, right? Both sides feel like they're being victimized by a weaponized government, and they are. But this is them working together. This is collusion that's occurring. This is two parties that are working hand in hand with each other to bring down the Constitution. That is why these are the two perfect candidates to do it. And whatever the outcome is, whatever they choose, the other side is not going to believe it. All they'll have to do is put out Russia did this or that. And conservatives, there's a 0% chance that conservatives are going to believe that Joe Biden won this election fair and square. And that's what I believe that it's headed towards. Because I believe that Trump would be able to lead people out of their states, move some, not everybody, but a large amount of people. They'd be able to cause chaos the way they want to cause chaos, with Trump being the one who's saying, oh, like Democrats are convinced that they still, are in a republic. Like they think, they're the ones spewing this stuff about democracy, and it's not even a democracy in the first place. It's a republic, a banana republic, but a republic, right? They don't even realize how tyrannical and insane the Democratic Party is, how many rights they've taken away from people like me and you, who have all been correct about the stuff we've exposed. And the majority of people like me and you have warned people about the left-right divide for years, and they just refuse to come out of it. They like it. They feel like they're on a team. They feel like they're rooting for the New York Yankees or the Boston Red Sox. That's how insane this has gotten. Instead of saying, hey, you know what? Some of these people who are talking about the left-right divide are right, because I'm feeling this every single day. I'm feeling division among my coworkers, my family members, just based on political ideologies. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The government is overreaching as far as they possibly can to get a meddle in your day-to-day life. And they're doing it. And they're doing it with the two perfect candidates. The bully on the one side, who's calling out all the obvious stuff, right? Everything he's saying is this obvious stuff, the inflation, the ridiculous stuff they're doing with our tax money, right? And of course, this border stuff is the perfect psychological operation to use, because everybody feels threatened by what they're doing at the border. But again, you wouldn't know any of this data about the border if they didn't tell you, unless you live right by the border and could see it and could see people flooding in. Now, we know our government's paying people to invade our country. It's very clear, but they're not paying them to invade our country because they're votes. That's the narrative the mainstream wants out there. Oh, and all these illegals are going to vote in the election, and this whole process is all messed up now. We need to destroy the process. That's the point, to destroy the process. But the process isn't even in place anymore. And if the civilians knew that their vote didn't count, then the civilians would rise up against this small amount of people. They'd realize, wait a minute, these people are all members of these things called Freemasonry, Eastern Star. They're members of secret societies. That, by definition, is treason. These people in power are working us and pretending as if, and doing this division of one of us, pretending as if they care about us when they're doing this for one reason: sabotage. So the whole narrative continues to play out the way it's been going, right? One guy's completely senile, the other guy's a felon. It's two perfect characters, two perfect polar opposites standing on a stage, gaslighting every single civilian out there. And what we always have to watch, okay, is watch what comes out of it. If the narrative is all of the liberal media saying that the Democrats have no chance, if Joe Biden continues to run, it's over, World War III, Trump's going into power, those are the things you have to watch, because that's how they want you to think. Look, we can watch one of these stupid debates for hours on end and have our own opinion. How many times have we seen them come out and give the opposite opinion of what's reality? And we all just go, huh? What are they talking about? They easily could come out after this and say, wow, Joe Biden really kicked his butt. And the people out there would believe it. The Democrats would believe it, and the conservatives would disagree with it. That's how it works every time. They're deliberately, every single liberal media outlet, 5 seconds after this debate, came out telling you that Joe Biden stands no chance, that the Democrats are done, and that's what they're doing by design. They want you to feel that way. So when they pull the rug out from underneath you this fall, the majority of people will finally have enough. And they'll say, you know what? This thing is rigged. They've been telling us for months his approval ratings in the toilet. The Democrats rigged the entire election. And that's the narrative that they want. And the Democrats will go, no, it's not rigged. You know, people just changed their mind. You know, these conservatives just refuse to believe the outcome done by design. That's the end of the entire structure of how America has operated. It comes down to this fake election in the fall, which is nothing more than a selection, which is not rigged. It is fake. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families, as always.